Good morning, Shana Tova, everybody. Welcome. We're coming to you from our beautiful sanctuary in Overland Park, Kansas. I am Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined by Leslie Zucker, our High Holy Days accompanists, our congregation Beth Torah volunteer choir, and our technical team. Special thank you to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls, and to our digital docents for managing the streaming. If you are technically inclined and would like to help, please reach out to the office and we'll get you in touch with that team. This morning, we will continue with Mishkan HaNefesh, our Machzor for the High Holidays. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, links to the prayer page, PDF, and other information will be available in the comments section. And if you're joining us on the virtual sanctuary, you may find them just about the player. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, we invite you to say hello by typing Lashana Tova. You can spell it any way you want. And but please tell us where you're watching us from. I don't mean your living room, your kitchen, but physically where you are. And don't forget to click return. One important technical note, please write down this number, 913-303-1134. This is CVT's technical assistance line, TAL. And write it down now because, if you need it, when you need it, you're not going to be able to go back and look for it online. So you text that number and one of our docents will get back to you and help you get back online. Those of you here who are leading prayers this morning will use this reading stand and microphone, which I think are ready to go. Simply read loudly and clearly, and our technological team will handle the rest. Those of you who are part of the Torah service, Aliot and the Ark openers, we will not use that mic or stand. I would just call you. Finally, we ask for those of you joining us in person to please silence all your electronic devices, and I'm going to do the same here. I think I got everything ready. Again, welcome. It's great to have you this morning. We will continue reading together on page 121, 121.
You have taught us, guard yourselves well, take good care of your lives. Your word calls to us, do no harm to yourself, do not weaken or exhaust yourself. In gratitude for the gift of our bodies, we pray for a year of renewed health and replenished strength. May caring for our bodies become our daily practice. May we be attentive to our need for proper food, sleep, and exercise. Let no injury come to others through our acts or failure to act. But let our mitzvah be this: to build a just society in which care is a birthright and the blessing of health the responsibility of all.
Continue, page 122.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi, tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi.
We continue together on page 129.
Page 129. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One. Blessed are hands that have touched life. Blessed are hands that have nurtured a child. Blessed are hands that have embraced with love and friendship. Blessed are hands that have planted new seeds. Blessed are hands that have harvested ripe fields. Blessed are hands that have cleaned, washed, mopped, and scrubbed. Blessed are hands that have held pain. Blessed are hands that have become knotty with age. Blessed are hands that are wrinkled and scarred from doing justice. Blessed are hands that hold the promise of the future. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One.
Continue together on page 135. We continue on page 141.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמה דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולמי הוויה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה
continue on page 148. We have trusted in your great and holy name. Now let us celebrate at last the joy of your salvation. Bring us in peace from the four corners of the earth. Lead us with upright pride to the land that is ours. For you are a God of miracles and wonders. For all the peoples of the earth you sought us out and brought us near to your great, enduring truth. So with love we acknowledge and proclaim that you are one. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher ve'amo Yisrael be'ahava. We continue together in the middle of page 163.
Page 163. Remember the stories of slavery, and you will never stop working for freedom. Remember their fear at the edge of the sea, and self-doubt will never defeat you. Remember when desperation turned to celebration, and you will never let go of hope. Remember the words of the Baal Shem Tov. Forgetfulness leads to exile. Remembrance is the seat of redemption.
Shira Chadasha להכל, וזוכר חסרות ואימהות, ומביא גלולה לבני בניהם, למען שמה ואהבה. עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור אלוהי, מחיה מתי מטרה להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחלל חיים בחסד, מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבולות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממיט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורה, לחיים ברחמים, לחיים ברחמים, ונאמנות על החיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
You may be seated. Our actions help us live in such a way that when we suffer life's darkest depredations, we will always have ways of coping with them. Our actions may not change the ultimate outcome one iota, but they alter our attitude, bolster our ability to withstand challenges, help us handle unavoidable misfortunes better, and see life's value amid chaos and dismay. We continue with the Kedusha on page 184. If you're able, we invite you to stand.
לקדש את שמו בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשממו, כך כתוב על יד לווייך, וקרא זה על זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, אלוהים כל הארץ, קדושתך נקדיש, בשבתך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד ערבך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש.
Would like to invite Zach Swivelman to join us on the Bima as we all turn to page 206 for our first segment of the blowing of the shofar on this first day of 5782. We join together in the blessing. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with your majestic might, summoning us to hear the sound of the shofar. Source of blessings, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time. Tekiah, Shvarim Truah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shevarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah. You may be seated. Yes, your God. Thank you. We continue together in the middle of page 208.
God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. Ye bestow such goodness, teach us to be satisfied and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God whose truth stands forever. Baruch Ata Adonai, Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael, V'yom hazikaron.
Our praise to you, Eternal One, whose power pervades all the earth. You bring holiness to the people Israel and to this day of remembrance.
We continue page 216.
בספר חיים, ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה, פרנסה טובה. ניזכר ונחתם לפניך, אנחנו וכל עמך, בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום, בספר חיים נחתם.
We continue silently through page 220. We continue on page 222. We join together, loving Father, infinite power, gentle, forgiving, lofty, inscrutable, Avinu Malkeinu, compassionate Mother, omnipotent Lord, comforting presence, fathomless mystery, Avinu Malkeinu, our rock and redeemer, life of the universe, close to us always, impossibly far, Avinu Malkeinu, embracing, confounding, accepting our frailty, decreeing our end. Avinu Malkeinu, none of these are true, none of them are you, yet we stand as those before us have stood, summoned to judgment, longing for love. Avinu Malkeinu, may these words be a bridge. They come from our hearts. May they lead us to you. We'd like to invite the Steigman Falikov family to join us on the bima and ask anybody and everybody who's able to please stand and join us with Avinu Malkeinu. Is on page 223. Let's wait.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Baneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Baneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asi. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'oshieinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Baneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Baneinu, Ki en banu ma'asi. The service for the reading of the Torah begins on page 227 with Ein Kamocha.
Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'ma'asecha. Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'mimshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz lemo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Arachamim, eitiva v'irtzoncha et Zion. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. Ki lecha levad batachnu, melech eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Chesed v'Emet. Notzer chesed alafim, Notzer chesed alafim, Nose avon v'afesha v'chata v'nakeh. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah shemo.
This morning, we are reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 22, beginning on verse number 1. The binding of Isaac is on page 240. And I would like to invite our first Torah reader, Henry Gittel. I knew you were somewhere in this vicinity. Be careful with the there. Okay, let's make sure that you have it. Hold on a minute. For the first Aliyah, I would like to invite the 5781 small group leaders who are here. I know some of you will come up and some of you will stand in your place. So I do need at least one who comes up. Whoever is comfortable, we invite you here. And if you are at home and you are one of our 5781 small group leaders, we invite you to join them with the blessings. Go.
Okay, prompt whatever you want me to prompt. That's why I'm here. Amen. ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, והאלוהים נישא את אברהם. ויאמר אליו, אברהם, ויאמר, הנני, ויאמר, קח נא את בנך, את יחידך, אשר אהבת, את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, והעלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים, אשר אומר עליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויחבש אל חמורו, ויקח את שני נערים איתו, ואת יצחק בנו. ויבקע עצי עולה, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yasher Koach, and thank you to all our small group leaders for a wonderful year, and looking forward to the next year. It's already rolling out, 5782. For the next Aliyah, I think some of you are in the same committee, so you're going to stay, because the second Aliyah this morning, I'd like to invite the members of our Bow Committee, our Beyond Our Wall Committee. And again, if you are one of those members, you can stand. And if you are here, you can forward and join us. You can tell Dave Zucker and Howard Hitler are here, and we have other members. But you can see the two of them, you see their faces a lot around. Well, you see Dave less.
He's always there, though.
Yes. And I would like to invite Shoshana Fisher, our Torah reader, to join us on the bima.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayikach Avraham et atzei ha'olah vayasem al Yitzchak beno vayikach biyado et ha'esh ve'et hama'achelet vayelchu shnehem yachdav vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham avin vayomer avi Vayomer Haneni Vini Vayomer Hani Hine Ha'esh V'Ha'etzim V'Aye Haseh Le'olam Vayomer Avraham Elohim V'Yira'eh Lo Haseh Le'olah V'ni V'Yelchu Shnehem V'Yachdav.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet. V'Chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
This moment in our service, we turn our thoughts to those in need of healing. At home, you may have access to the Misheberach list through the e-news that you received on Friday. You can also follow the link in the comments. If you like to offer names, we invite you to please type them in the comments. We can all see them. So go ahead and start typing. And for those of us here in person, I'm going to go around our sanctuary so you can offer names out loud. Please start here with the choir. Over here. Our thoughts turn to those in need of healing. Page 245, we join in the Misheberach blessing. Misheberach Avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. Misheberach Avoteinu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, veRachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our also turn our thoughts to those who help in healing, first responders and health workers all over our country and the world during this time of pandemic. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skills and knowledge be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. May all of us, the sick and the well, together find courage and hope. And let us say, Amen.
Hear our prayer. 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 And bless us as well.
Service continues on page 246 with Vezot HaTorah. If you're able, please stand.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל. אבי אדוני ביד משה. יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי לי לי.
It is my pleasure to invite my colleague, Rabbi Monica Kleiman, who is our Director of Lifelong Learning, to share words of Torah with all of us this morning. Rabbi Kleiman.
Walking around each other. Good morning and Shana Tova. So if the Torah portion we just heard had read like a script or a play for a movie, if it was all staged out, it would be really, really short. So it is all action and very little dialogue. The whole thing is a mere 19 verses long, and we only read about half of that this morning. From the introduction to Abraham and Isaac returning home after the ordeal is done. While the actions Abraham undertakes are deliberate and dramatic, the observer, or us, the reader, receives no clue as to what's going on in his mind. It's merely simple action after simple action that we watch. Vayash came, he got up. Vayikach, he took. Ayaseh, he looked up. And there's a couple short conversations, most memorably the one between Abraham and Isaac about the nature of the sacrifice itself. But the story is so sparse, it is so riveting. It's supposed to make us sit on the edge of our seats with anticipation. And these silences, these unknowns, this very terse nature, are supposed to serve as rhetorical devices. So even though our people have been reading this text on Rosh Hashanah for thousands of years now, it seems like every time we are in shock when we hear God's ask, and we're scared for Isaac's life. Spoiler alert, Isaac is fine. But as we progress through the story, we're not supposed to know that. If we had a magic remote control that could pause the story every few words. Now, I do realize the irony that everybody at home could pause every few words. But that aside, if we could pause the story and stop for a moment, we would ask all sorts of questions about what is missing from this story, why it's so short, why we don't hear this information that we think we should have. Especially what's going through Abraham's mind as he goes through this ordeal, and what else might be going unrecorded throughout the story. Firstly, one question we might ask is, what kind of ask is God making of someone? Now, we all home at know it's a test, but obviously Abraham doesn't. So he finds himself in this bizarre and abominable situation, one he did not ask for, by the way, and now he has to figure out how to respond? That's a lot of questions for the first line of God tested Abraham. So I dare say that all of us have been thrown into odd situations in the last 18 months that not only did we not ask for, we're also struggling to understand. Setting aside the debate about the veracity of science, which is a sentence I never thought I would have to say out loud, we are all struggling in our own ways to explain what sometimes really feels unexplainable. But our story from Torah this morning, however, has been around for thousands of years and has had plenty of people chiming in to explain what's going on. The 11th century French commentator Rosh is known for his simple and straightforward explanations of Torah texts. So this seems like exactly what we need. We need someone who has simple and straightforward explanations to tell us what's going on. He'll give us simple answers, right? Well, yes and no. Rashi takes this very terse language and fills it up with illustrative conversations inspired by Midrash, internal monologues, and deep backstories that were inspired by other Jewish texts. As a reader like any other, he's confused too at the lack of details that this text provides, and also seeks to fill in all these plot holes. When the text says, in the very beginning it says, and after these things, Rashi reasonably responds, what things? And he supplies a story about Abraham from a midrash to fill in the gap. Clearly, this is the story that must have fit in this spot. When the text says, take your son, your only son, the one you love, Isaac, Rashi reads it as a conversation between God and Abraham. God says, take your son. And Abraham responds, well, I have two sons. Your only son. Well, each one of my sons is the only child of his mother. The one you love. I love both of them. And eventually God just gets exasperated and spells it out for him. We're talking about Isaac here. All this back and forth isn't really necessary for us to understand the plot, but Rashi can't help himself. There are so many unanswered questions. So here's another one. The place where they're supposed to go is one that God says, I will show you. The narrative tells us that after 3 days, they arrived at Moriah. This inspires a logical question. How did Abraham know that that's where they were supposed to end up? I mean, it's a logical question. So Rashi explains that there was a cloud to indicate where Abraham should stop. Well, of course there's a cloud. That's how you would know. But the text doesn't tell us that. But Rashi really needed to fill in that plot hole. How about this one? Abraham tells his two servants that he and Isaac are going to go up to the mountain to pray, and after that they'll come back. For all we know, Abraham thinks he's going up there with his son and is planning to come back alone. How could he have blatantly lied to his servants? One could argue that telling them the true plan would alarm them and cause the servants to potentially grab Isaac and try to save his life. Or he just didn't want the servants to come with them, so he told a little half-truth to get them to stay behind. No, those aren't good enough for Rashi. Rashi explains that Abraham had had a prophecy, so he knew before he even ascended the mountain that they would somehow both return. This is not to say that Rashi is just making stuff up. His work draws on a millennia of Jewish texts, and he takes advantage of these silences as opportunities to insert them into the greater narrative. That is, using the text that already exists to answer the questions that the story leads us to ask. It is easy to think that he and many other commentators are potentially uncomfortable with these silences, uncomfortable with the context of the story and even anxious to fill in the places where the story is lacking. More universally, we can understand that when there are unknowns, people often try to fill in the silence with whatever information they have available. I cannot think of a time filled with more silence and unknown than the last year and a half. There's been a lot of inaction. There's been a lot of staying put. A couple big actions, like a vaccine, yay. And a lot of jibber-jabbering about all of it. While pandemics of the past have been recorded in diaries, this one will live forever on social media. Which has social media been truly a blessing and a curse during this last year and a half. I've been able to connect with colleagues around the country and around the world to share information about and discuss professional approaches to this strange situation we find ourselves in. It's been a source of humor. A friend began posting each day back last March on adventures without daycare and chronicled all the things his toddler demanded of him. Some of them were heartwarming and some of them were just very strange. There was time and ways to reconnect with friends now that everyone was in a similar situation in life. With all of us doing similar, simple actions, baking sourdough bread, binging on our streaming services, just kind of hanging out, the activity in our world ground to a halt. What were once everyday activities now became potentially life-threatening situations. But with this cessation of activity came an explosion in talking, that is rather typing. So one of the downsides of social media during a pandemic, everybody has a voice, and they can use that voice to say whatever they want, and often there is an audience willing to listen. After the initial shock of shutdown, the voices came out, and they were often not kind. Blame for every problem fell on the shoulders of anyone who caught the ire of a tweeter or blogger with some extra time and energy. Instead of being authority figures who presented vetted information, public figures just became regular users with a check mark next to their name. And they've had their accounts flooded with everything from criticism to praise. And when these public figures are just a click away while sitting in your bedroom or your bathroom, our guard can come down and our words can let loose. This struggle to fill the silence with something is not unusual, unique, or even inexcusable. It's human nature to want to disrupt the awkward. Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes, even tells us, and we sang earlier, there's a time for silence and a time for speaking. And we needed that advice before Twitter even existed. But sometimes what we forget is that it's not only the intended recipient who reads our public postings, but often our friends, family, colleagues, perhaps a future employer, perhaps your rabbis. What was once could have been a verbal outburst for which we could apologize and move on has now become a permanent mark of our emotions. Once you put it on the internet, it's there forever for everyone to see. Just as we've made assumptions about Rashi and his anxiety about the Torah portion we read this morning, people are very quick to judge us for our comments online. We may sit here every Yom Kippur and vow not to be so judgmental in the coming year, but some of it is just human instinct. It helps us identify dangerous situations and get out of them. But sometimes on social media, though, we dig ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. I believe the saying goes, it is better to remain silent and thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And sometimes when it's really quiet, we want to open our mouths, especially when it's silent. And so these silences are not the only, Rashi's not the only one to observe these silences that we've been talking about. Basing her comments on 2,000 years of Jewish scholarship, the 20th century scholar Nechama Leibowitz, she synthesizes for us that the sparse details of this story and the relative lack of dialogue help contribute to the miraculousness of the whole ordeal. What isn't said could be where God is acting in the background. The sparse details help enhance the wondrousness of the story. In other words, less is more. God clearly listened to Kohelet and knew when to be quiet. That takes a lot of tact on God's part to hide what God was doing, even though that God knew it would ultimately end up well for Abraham. Since we have the full narrative in front of us, those 19 verses, we know what happens at the end. With that knowledge, it's easy to try to read meaning into someone's words, actions, or lack thereof. It all fits together in a nice story arc. And at the end, Abraham and Isaac walk home together. But what happens when we don't know how the story will end? I think of this every election year with the anticipation leading up to November. While some years we have more clues than others, ultimately we don't know who will win the required number of electoral votes and become the next president. We sit in limbo for hours, even days, knowing there will be an end, and we are just waiting for that end to arrive. Once all the votes are counted, it's definite, in most years. But what happens, though, if we don't know if the story will end? Will we ever be in a post-COVID world? Will we ever return to things the way we knew them before March of 2020? Will eating in a restaurant ever feel the same again? As much as you're hoping that I have an answer, I'm afraid I don't. But what I do know is that the pandemic has changed how we communicate. People who used to congregate in person and have lively debates in their living rooms now hold those conversations online for the world to see. What used to be just between friends lives on Facebook eternally. Even if you think you deleted a comment, a screenshot is forever. We can't all be like God and orchestrate the world from beginning to end. We have to live through it. Not only do we have to live through it in real time, we also have to live with the fact that we don't know ultimately what's going to happen. There's no shortage of people who claim to have that answer, and they certainly do make a lot of noise. I believe that noise, this excess of arguing and talking, comes from our anxiety about the current state of the world, which is an absolutely reasonable explanation. We're all entitled to feel anxious, sad, mad, exasperated, or worried. But when we look back on the written record of this time, whenever that moment of reflection comes, what do we want people to think of our character as echoed in our status updates? Do we want to appear as bellicose and harsh towards those with whom we disagree? Is our online legacy one of which we can be proud? I'm not suggesting that we all refrain from engaging in dialogue, far from it. But as we embark on this new year, I challenge each of us to stop and think before hitting post. Maybe our silence, in some cases, can help contribute to healthier and more thoughtful communication in our overly saturated world. Shana Tova.
Service continues with the second section of the blowing of the shofar on page 267, and I would like to invite Larry Meyer. Oh, there you are. You materialize. God of remembrance, remember the covenant of our ancestors. We reaffirm it today. Remember, we are a people of noble ideals. Help us attain them. Remember all your people, all the nations on the road to peace. Bless their efforts. Remember with mercy the binding of Isaac, the sorrow of Sarah, Abraham's words, "Here I am." Our memory fades, but you remember all that we have forgotten. Your presence is a throne where all things matter and nothing is lost. Baruch atah Adonai, zocher habrit. Blessed are you, Adonai. You remember the covenant. You remember us. Please rise. Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah. You may be seated. We continue page 269.
הרשת שפתנו ירם לפניך עירם עירם ונישא מבין ומאזין מבין ומאזין מביט ומקשיב לכל תקוותנו ותקבל ברחמים וברצון סדר סדר שפרותינו.
Page that you don't have in front of you because we're using a slightly different. I would like to invite Scott Franklin. And this is a tradition we're starting today. This is going to be what every immediate past president will do. We'll offer a prayer for our congregation on the first Rosh Hashanah when they're no longer our president. And thank you for all your service, Scott. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Rabbi. A prayer for our congregation. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai she'atacha levadha bira na'avod.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to invite Kevin Romano, and we're starting another tradition today. This is it. Kevin is a veteran, and we're honored to have Kevin Romano joining us today to offer a prayer for our country.
Thank you. For our country, thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Page 274, we continue with a prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu shebashamayim, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה, בברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה, סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנן בעצה טובה מלפניך. אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. ונאמר אמן, ונאמר אמן. We continue with the service for returning the Torah scroll to the Ark, and I would like to invite the Kirstein family to join us on the Bima and invite everybody to turn to page 277 for Etz Chaim.
Etz Chaimi, lama chazikim ba, letom leha, meushan teracheha, tachenu
Please remain standing. We continue on page 281 as we enter the third and last segment of blowing the shofar. And I would like to invite Howard Pittler to join us on the bima and lead us on the reading. Robert, go ahead.
Summoned to battle injustice, we heard the rebuke of our prophets. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a shofar. Goodness of the world, tuvo shel olam. Today we stand before the shofar to hear the voices of hope, resilient and strong, proclaiming freedom, promising redemption. In days to come, a great shofar will be sounded. Those lost in the land of Assyria and cast away in the land of Egypt shall come back and worship Adonai on the holy mountain in Jerusalem. To speak out, never grow weary. To hold fast to the Mount of Sinai. To believe in a time when all life will be cherished. To work for that day and to know it will come. The blast of the horn sustains us in faith. My God, Adonai, shall blow the shofar and advance in the stormy tempest. A mighty call never stops. The shofar resounds forever. All you who live in a world and inhabit the earth, when a flag is raised in the hills, take note. When the shofar is blown, give heed.
Baruch Ata Adonai, Shomea Kol Teruat Amo Yisrael Berachamim. Blessed are you, Adonai, in our lives. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people Israel. Tekiah, Shevarim Trua. Tekiah, Tekiah, Shevarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah Gedolah. Yasher Koach. You may be seated. We continue on page 285. It is my pleasure to welcome the president of the board of our congregation, Larry Meyer, who's done lots of things. You've seen him already blow the shofar and sing. And he also dances. No, I mean, he is also the president of our board. And it's great to have you, Larry. Welcome.
And all this extra, and I don't even charge anymore for just playing in the choir. Shana Tova, and welcome, everyone. For those that do not know me, my name is Larry Meyer, and the Meyer family has been Beth Torah members for over 20 years. My day job is buying, renovating, and selling abandoned houses in the central core of Kansas City, Missouri. But today I'm honored to stand here as president of Congregation Beth Torah and trying my best not to ramble on for too long, but not to worry, because the hook comes out if I run past my time slot. It's no news that last year was difficult for everyone. Beth Torah was no different. Hats off to Rabbi Katapan, Rabbi Kleiman, Beth Torah staff, past President Scott Franklin, and last year's board for keeping us moving forward, providing sound management and financial decisions, all the while keeping the Beth Torah ship afloat in a very, very angry sea. However, it's time to move forward. The mission for the new year for everyone at Beth Torah is renew, reconnect, and reignite. So let me take a moment to touch on all three. Renew. Our building and grounds that make up the Beth Torah campus was in need of some TLC. The most obvious was years of accumulated schmutz on the outside of the building. That was corrected with a total building wash over the summer. That was great. We had many trees across the campus that had low hanging, barely hanging, or dead branches that were removed, along with several dead trees. The remaining tree stumps were ground down with new grass going in later in the fall. Outdated evergreens in the front of the building were removed and replaced with daylilies left over from an Eagle Scout project in the back courtyard. We applied for and received a substantial Homeland Security grant to address numerous security issues around the building. Upgrades include security film on the lower windows around the building and all glass doors. New closed-circuit TV cameras were also installed. And we also have a camera that can zoom in and record your license plate from the parking lot. New exterior lights around the building and alarms on all the exterior fire security doors will be coming later in the fall. We've been cleaning, painting, and taking care of a long list of honeydews around the property. Reconnect. I'd like to think everyone here has their own Beth Torah moments. It could be a life cycle event or one of the many memorable programs from the past, like getting heartburn at the chili cook-off, planting, painting, or cleaning something at a past mitzvah day. For me, I stood in this very spot and gave a speech at my son's bar mitzvah, my daughter's bat mitzvah, and I stood here and gave the eulogy at my wife's funeral. There were baby namings, shivas, choir, playing in this Beth Torah house band, and too many others to list. But for the Meyer family, at our best and at our very worst, Beth Torah was the common thread that we could always count on and that we could always know that, and we knew that it would always be there. I've heard from a number of people, I just don't have a connection to Beth Torah anymore. The kids are gone. I only come for high holidays. Not sure I can justify the expense. My response is always, I'm sorry to hear that, but that's a decision that you'd have to make with your family. But then I ask, what have you done to stay connected? I get lots of different answers. Some of them I used myself because, truth be told, I felt the same way. Then one Sunday morning, a few years back, while playing percussion at Sunday school, I watched the kids bouncing around, and I started wondering if these kids will have the same great experience growing up at Beth Torah that my kids had. If there's a family crisis, will everyone be able to get the same support that I had? Will everyone be able to enjoy beautiful music and a wonderful spiritual experience, not only at high holidays, but every time they walk through the door like I have? Well, on that morning, I found my connection. It's the 350 families that make up this congregation. That's why, that's why I'm standing here today, because I want to make sure we can answer yes to every one of those questions. So how do we go about this? We reignite the spark. First and foremost, I'm excited to announce that we are rolling out a new Beth Torah app for your Android and Apple iPhone, and a shiny new website will follow later in the fall. Our new app will have everything Beth Torah at your fingertips, calendars, a direct link to our website. You'll be able to watch present and past stream services and song sessions on your phone. You can make a donation, pay your dues, keep up with all the wonderful new programs and groups coming online. The app can even be uploaded to Roku and Amazon, and you can watch at home on the big screen instead of crowding around your little laptop. Aviva will have instructions on downloading all of this during her announcements. We have fresh new programming, but we also like playing the oldies. Exciting new programs on the horizon and the revival of some from a few years ago. We have a new social justice, social action group. The picker parties are coming back. We have an all-star small group lineup that was just announced last Friday at Shabbat services, and a lot more. Aviva can also tell you how easy it is to sign up and get involved. COVID forced us to become creative on how we presented Shabbat services and other Beth Torah functions. Many thanks to Dave Zucker, who spent countless hours cobbling together what is now a state-of-the-art video and streaming studio located in the back of the sanctuary. Wave hi to everybody, Dave. Because of a generous equipment donation, we now have a very impressive system that we can use here in the sanctuary, or we can easily roll it out to the backyard for outdoor services. Did I mention we have a wonderful new venue in the backyard for services and other events? This spring, Beth Torah and the Jewish War Veterans became co-sponsors of a new Boy Scout troop, number 48. The troop meets in the Beth Torah backyard at the fire pit every Monday night. In addition to their scout activities, they also help with a variety of projects around the campus. In other words, free labor. We've been making a concerted effort to personally connect with every member in the congregation throughout the year. We reached out to our older congregants to make sure they were okay and if there was anything we could do to help them. At Purim, we delivered gift bags to everyone in the congregation, and a few weeks ago, Rosh Hashanah goodie bags were delivered to everyone. Well, I've rambled on for the last few minutes about all the wonderful things going on at Beth Torah and all the building upgrades and projects we've done over the last few months. Some of you may be thinking, wow, Beth Torah must be loaded to do all this, money for everything. Well, that's just not true. The majority of everything I just spoke of was made possible because of grants, donations, volunteers, and a razor-thin staff. The reality is our budget has no fat, and expenses have been cut to the bone. In some areas, we even had to start gnawing away at the bone. Every vendor has asked repeatedly, is that the best you can do? And every nickel is pinched so hard it screams. For those that attended the last annual meeting, our financial position was made crystal clear. However, you can only cut so much before you can no longer provide a quality product. We need to focus on generating more income. Our fundraising committee is very busy creating new programs that will help, but it will not fill the gap we need filled. So, here we are, the High Holiday Appeal. I renovate old houses for a living, but my passion is music. I've been in one band or another for over 50 years, and there's an old saying in the music business, if you want to dance, you gotta pay the band. Membership dues will never come close to covering all of our expenses. That's true for any congregation. The balance has to be made up from fundraising and charitable giving. However, nobody has ever turned away from Beth Torah because of an inability to pay their dues. Now, I can only speak for myself and what's important to me, but I think we all share some of the same wants and desires. I want to make sure that the Weiner Religious School continues to be an excellent educational experience for all the kids there now and in the future. At the present, the religious school runs at a deficit. Our building and grounds are getting older. Things wear out, things break, things need to be updated so the building will stay fresh. Limited funds in the budget only covers serious necessary repairs. Yes, we do have a building fund, but we also have the original air conditioning and heating units, the original carpet in the sanctuary, the original roof, and a parking lot that's starting to look like the surface of the moon. The deferred maintenance, drive around in the circle a couple times, you'll see what I'm talking about. The deferred maintenance can has been kicked down the road for some time. I want to make sure our music program stays healthy and vibrant. It's who we are. Leslie is an extremely talented and accomplished musician, and we are so fortunate she is here. However, she has a limited budget, and yet we continue to have music programming we can all enjoy and be proud of. Think of what she could come up with if she was fully funded. So let's take a minute to reflect on what we have here. We have a beautiful building, great charismatic rabbis, an amazing music program, an overachieving staff, dedicated, hardworking board and volunteers, and a congregation that's big enough that there are always new people to meet and things to do, yet small enough to easily get involved in any area you have an interest. You have a diverse congregation where everyone is welcome, everyone feels safe, and everyone has the right to their own opinions. I'm asking everyone to help. Big checks pay the big bills, little checks pay the little bills, but something as simple as an $18 monthly auto pay on your credit card will help Beth Torah remain vibrant and our source of spiritual enlightenment. Well, out of the corner of this eye, I can see the hook coming, but out of this ear, I can hear the band playing. So let's all get up and start dancing. I hope you all have a healthy and happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. As we come towards the end of our time together this morning, we invite everybody to stand if you're able and join us on page 286 for Aleinu L'Shabbat. We continue on page 289. May the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in forever united in your service. Then shall your dominion be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. As we prepare for our moment of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 291. Yesh kochavim she'oram magia arza. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. So it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. Hem shemarim le'adam et haderech. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways that we remember. On this Rosh Hashanah, our thoughts turn to our loved ones who death has recently taken from us. We are observing the Shloshim period for Henry Osman, brother of Stan Osman, Isla Tootie Brown, mother-in-law of Lon Lowenstein, and Ruth Rivi Zifrin Lerner, aunt of Steve and March Cooper. On this first yahrzeit of her passing, we remember Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We also remember the following yahrzeits of members of our congregation: Stephen Mark Brown, Ann Zarlinsky, Harry Dubrov, Mildred B. Goldie, Jimmy Taylor. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing now and always. Page 292, we rise together as a congregation. We recite Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעלמה דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם ביעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. I'd like to welcome Aviva Simons, Director of Member Engagement for our congregation, for some announcements and greetings and congratulations and all kinds of good stuff. Aviva?
Shana Tova. Thank you for joining us this morning, both physically here at Beth Torah and virtually. Thank you to Rabbi Katapan, Leslie Zucker, the Congregation Beth Torah Volunteer Choir, accompanist, harpist, and Beyond Our Walls Committee for leading us in worship and bringing all of us together. Join us this coming Shabbat for Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We will come together for our Erev Shabbat Shuvah service at 6:30 p.m., both physically and virtually. Following the service, we will dedicate the newest plaques in our memorial room. All are welcome to join us in the Evelyn and Melvin Spikovsky and Sandra L. Schaefer Memorial Room for this meaningful gathering, which will also be live streamed on Facebook. We are just a few weeks away from our 17th annual CBT Golf Classic. This year's event will take place on October 4th at a new location, Falcon Lakes Golf Club in Bayshore, Kansas. Our most critical need right now is more golfers. If you play golf at whatever skill level, we would love for you to join us for what should be a fun day under ideal weather conditions. Please talk to Sharon Altman during our Rosh Hashanah luncheon to learn more. Also, our 5782 small group sign-up is live. Small groups bring our CBT members together through their passions, from knitting to learning to walking around KC. More information can be found at the link on the screen and in the comments. And now, following the service, for those of us here in person, as you leave the sanctuary, you will be handed a gold card with information on how to download our app, which we are very excited about. And for those on Facebook, we will post it in the comments. If you had the opportunity to register for our Rosh Hashanah luncheon, please take a lunch in the Ulam. We have seating outdoors in our backyard and indoors in the Ulam, Triangle, and Bride's Room. The tween lunch and learn will take place with Rabbi Kleinman in the backyard. If you did not have the opportunity to register for our Rosh Hashanah luncheon, stick around because we may have extra lunches available. After the luncheon, join us for Tashlich. We will meet in front of the building at 1:00 p.m. to walk to the creek together. This will be live streamed on Facebook, but not on the virtual sanctuary. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Aviva. We conclude our time this morning, this part, because we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to do Tashlich with Enkel Oheinu on page 299. If you are able to stand and join us.
I'm not laughing at you. I stepped on my own heel and took off my shoe. Laughing at me.
All right, I didn't see that.
Enkel Oheinu, Enkel Oheinu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu, Enkel Oheinu, Enkel Oheinu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu. Michel Oheinu, Michel Oheinu, Michel Malkeinu, Michel Moshienu. Shana Tova, everyone. Take care of each other out there.